He walked onto the track with one single goal in his head, and by the time he crossed the finish line, he had done something no man in European history has ever done before. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times in a row, and the way he celebrated it left an entire stadium in shock. Stick around, because by the end of this video you will understand exactly why this man is being called the greatest 400-meter hurdler Europe has ever produced, and why, at 30 years old, he might not even be done yet. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we cover stories like this every single week. Legendary performances, world records, and the athletes who are rewriting the history books in real time. Now, let's get into it. It was August 14th, 2026. Alexander Stadium in Birmingham was packed under the lights, and the atmosphere was electric. This was the men's 400-meter hurdles final at the European Athletics Championships. And if you know anything about track and field, you know this event has a reputation. It is considered one of the most punishing races in the entire sport. Athletes have to sprint an entire lap of the track, 400 meters, while clearing 10 hurdles along the way. There is nowhere to hide. By the final 100 meters, most competitors are running on fumes, legs burning from falling apart. In lane 6 stood Karsten Warholm of Norway. Right next to him was Germany's Emil Ajicum, a 27-year-old who had quietly put together one of the best seasons of his career, breaking the 48-second barrier 4 separate times that year. On paper, Ajicum looked like the closest thing to a genuine threat in the field. Then the gun went off, and Warholm did what Warholm always does. He exploded. His start is not just fast, it's a signature. It's the part of his race that has separated him from every other hurdler on the planet for almost a decade. Within the first 100 meters, he already had a visible gap on the field. He wasn't just leading, he was pulling away. Through the middle portion of the race, the part where most runners start losing count of their strides, where rhythm falls apart under fatigue, Warholm looked untouched by the pressure. His stride pattern from hurdle to hurdle barely changed. While the rest of the field began tightening up under the pace he had set, he came off the final bend already clear of everyone else. The race for gold had effectively been decided seconds before he even reached the finish line. The only question left was how fast the clock would read. The answer: 46.63 seconds. That time shattered his own championship record of 46.98, a mark he had set 2 years earlier in Rome. He ran almost 0.4 of a second faster than that old record on the single biggest stage in European track and field. And here's the part that really tells you something. It was nearly identical to the season's best time he had already clocked a month earlier in London. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime fluke. This was Karsten Warholm performing at his true level, on command, when it mattered the absolute most. Behind him, Ajicum crossed in 47.87 to claim silver, a huge result for a breakout season. Turkey's Ismail Nizer took bronze in 48.26. Both of those men ran season-best caliber races. They just happened to be sharing a track with someone racing in a completely different class, more than a full second ahead of them by the time the race was over. When Warholm crossed the line, he didn't even glance at the scoreboard. He knew. He turned to the roaring crowd and held up 4 fingers. For European titles in this event. More than any man in history. Before this night, Warholm was tied at 3 European titles with a German legend named Harald Schmid, a man who had won his 3 titles back in the early 1980s. That record had survived for decades, through generations of hurdlers, through changing training methods, through entirely different eras of the sport. And on this night, in front of a packed Birmingham crowd, Karsten Warholm didn't just tie it. He broke it. He now stands completely alone at the top of that list. After the race, a reporter asked him what still drives him after all these years of dominance. His answer was almost disarmingly simple. He said the reason he competes is to come out in front of people and to do it again. No grand speech about legacy, no mention of records, just the raw, honest truth of a competitor who is chasing the feeling of proving himself, over and over, every single time he steps onto a track. Here's what makes this one even more staggering. Warholm did not walk into that final fresh and rested. Earlier in the same championships, he had already helped Norway win gold in the mixed 4x400-meter relay. That means his hurdles title was already his second gold medal of the week, before he'd even lined up for the event that made him famous. And he didn't scrape through the earlier rounds either. In the semifinal 2 days before the final, he won his heat in a controlled 48.01 seconds. Fast enough to advance comfortably, slow enough to save his legs for the race that actually mattered. That's the mark of a veteran who has done this so many times he knows exactly how much of himself to spend and when. And it doesn't stop there. The men's 4x400 relay was still to come to close out the championships. If Warholm ran that final leg for Norway, he had a real shot at leaving Birmingham with 3 golds from a single championship, a feat almost no track and field athlete manages to pull off in one meet. Now let's rewind, because none of this happened overnight. Karsten Warholm has spent almost a decade turning the 400-meter hurdles into his personal kingdom. His first world title came in 2017 when he was just 21 years old and barely known outside of Norway. From there, he kept climbing year after year, refusing to plateau. In 2021, running in front of his home fans in Oslo, he ran a stunning 46.70 seconds, obliterating a world record that had stood since 1992, set by American Kevin Young. That record was one of the oldest standing marks in the entire sport, and Warholm tore it down on Norwegian soil in front of the people who had watched him grow up. But it was Tokyo, later that same year, that turned him into a global name. In what is still talked about as one of the greatest races in Olympic history, Warholm ran 45.94 seconds to win gold, smashing his own world record by more than 0.7 of a second. And he didn't do it alone in terms of history-making. Behind him, American Rai Benjamin ran the second fastest time ever recorded by a human being. Brazil's Alisson dos Santos ran a time that would itself have been a world record just weeks earlier. 3 men in one race, all running times that would have shocked the sport a single year before. That race alone is enough to put Warholm's name permanently among the greatest hurdlers who have ever lived. He followed that Olympic performance with more world titles, more Diamond League victories, and years of barely ever slipping out of the #1 spot in the world rankings. So when Karsten Warholm lines up at a European championship, he isn't just racing the field standing next to him. He's racing his own history, a history almost nobody else can compete with. Since 2016, when he made his very first Olympic semifinal as a young, largely unproven athlete, he has faced nearly every top hurdler Europe has ever produced. In that entire stretch, years of races, dozens of world-class competitors, he has lost to a European runner exactly once. One single time at the 2022 World Championships in Oregon, while he was still fighting his way back from injury and finished 7th. Take that one race away, and no European has beaten Karsten Warholm in a decade. And then there's this number, which honestly sounds made up the first time you hear it. With his run in Birmingham, Warholm now owns more than 30 of the fastest times ever recorded in this event by a European athlete. Not a typo. Over 30 of the top times in the sport's history belong to one single man. Most elite hurdlers spend their entire careers chasing 1 or 2 performances that crack the all-time top lists. Warholm has built an entire personal collection of them. And here's what should really make you stop and think. Karsten Warholm is 30 years old. In most sports, 30 is considered veteran territory, a stage where explosiveness and raw speed start quietly slipping away. Hurdling events punish that decline even faster than a flat sprint, because losing even half a step of power can throw off your entire rhythm across 10 hurdles. One mistimed stride, and the whole race can unravel. And yet, his season-best time in 2026, 46.61 seconds, run at the London Diamond League, was nearly identical to the time he ran to win gold in Birmingham. His start out of the blocks, the single most explosiveness-dependent part of his race, looked every bit as fast as it did when he broke the world record in Tokyo 5 years earlier. Age has not slowed this man down. If anything, he looks as sharp as he has ever looked, and every single rival across Europe now has to plan for a Warholm who clearly still has years left at the very top of the sport. For context, just how deep his European reign goes. His first European title came in Berlin back in 2018. His second came in Munich in 2022, where he ran a championship record of 47.12, breaking Harald Schmid's 1982 mark of 47.48, a record that had stood untouched for 40 years. His third came in Rome in 2024, with a championship record of 46.98. And now his fourth came in Birmingham in 2026, with a new championship record of 46.63. For titles, for different cities, for different championship records along the way. His world record of 45.94 seconds, set in Tokyo in 2021, still stands today. The market replaced. Kevin Young's 46.78 from the 1992 Barcelona Olympics had lasted 29 years before Warholm broke it. Even his rivals are making history around him. Ajikam silver in Birmingham came off the back of breaking Germany's own 34-year-old national record, previously held by, of all people, Harold Schmid, with a 47.45 at the London Diamond League just weeks before the final. Karsten Warholm didn't just win another title in Birmingham. He rewrote what anyone thought was possible in this event on European soil, holding up four fingers to a stadium that watched him make history in real time. 9 years after his first world title, he is still the fastest man out of the blocks in the sport. He is still the man everyone else is chasing. And he is still finding new ways to prove exactly why he is the greatest 400-meter hurdler Europe has ever produced. If this story gave you chills the way it gave us chills putting it together, do us a favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling us what you think. Is Karsten Warholm the greatest 400-meter hurdler of all time? Full stop? We'll see you in the next one.